All right, so we have our next area, that is measurement, valuation, and disclosure of short-term items. And when you say short-term items, we are talking about, we are right here. We are right here at this point. Unit 2 is about to be done. Not all of it. We will at least be able to touch some part of inventory, and then maybe the remaining part in the coming days. So your unit 2 is going to be over within this week, inshallah, that's for sure. So we are going to do account receivables, which is your current assets. We will be discussing inventory in detail. You will have at least a couple of questions from this topic as well. So that's the area overall in this unit 2, account receivables, inventory. Ji wa alaikum assalam, guys. And different aspects of inventory, remeasurement. Subhan, I'm recording the class and I will share the recording after the class, inshallah. Better quality voice and less disruption, inshallah. All right, so welcome. So let's get started with account receivable. We know what account receivables are. We professional accountants know these are the people to whom we have sold goods on credit. So basically they are our customers to whom we have sold goods on credit, and now we have to collect money from them. So trade receivables are your customers, individuals or companies from whom we have to receive amount. There can be two types of account receivables, current and non-current. You have to specifically focus on current because that is the focus of our agenda. Non-current is just discussed in a paragraph and that's all. So when you say current account receivable, it means these are the customers who will pay you within 12 months, within a year. So how do we report current account receivables on our balance sheet? I'm sure all of you know, but let's just revisit. We report our current account receivables at NRV. At NRV. What is net realizable value? Let me explain with numbers. Let's say our account receivables are 115,000. Ji Yusuf wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's say $115,000. These are our account receivables. And we suspect that maybe 5,000 out of them will not pay. So if 115,000 is the gross amount receivable and 5,000, ji Yusuf wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. And we doubt that maybe 5,000 is uncollectible, then the amount that we will receive, the amount that we can net realize is called the NRV, and it is 110,000. So it looks simple. 115 is the gross amount, 5,000 is doubtful. We may not be able to collect, and the net amount is 110. Now the question is, how do we determine this $5,000? How do we determine this amount? How do we calculate? That's the agenda. Walid, the idea to define the current asset, I hope you remember from our previous lecture from unit 1. How do we define a current asset, gentlemen? Please. Current assets are those assets which are used, which are converted into cash within 1 year or operating cycle, whichever is longer. I hope you remember. 1 year or operating cycle, whichever is longer. So mostly, Walid, I hope you know that invoice period is hardly 2 months or 3 months max. So they pay you within 3 months. So fine. So that is clearly less than these two, 1 year on operating cycle, whichever is lower. So that's how we determine our current account receivable. Yes, absolutely. They are your current assets. Now, when you say non-current receivables, non-current means that these are receivables that are likely to be collected after 1 year. Let's say I have some receivables, some of the money related to those receivables will be collected within 1 year, but some part of it may be $100,000 or $110,000. It is collectible in maybe 2025, let's say. Now, right now I am at 2021 December. How do I report these 110? 110 is amount that is collectible at the end of 2025. I will report this to 2025 at its present value. There is a specific mathematical process we call discounting. We will report this 110 in its present term. I hope you know money grows into the future. If you deposit $1 in the bank at 10% rate, it will become $1.1 after 1 year. So money grows into the future. This is called compounding. This is called compounding. You will discuss this inshallah in your section ECMA part 2. investment decision analysis. And when we bring these future cash flows in the present term for the purpose of our computation, this is called discounting. Remember, discounting. So taking money into the future where it grows, compounding, bring the money back to the present terms for our computation. This is called discounting. That's what you need to know. So I'm going to report this 110 in its present value, which might be, let's say, $98,000. So this is how we report our non-current portion of the account receivable. Just to this point, there is not a single question anywhere in Gleim, Hawk, and Wiley. There is this gentleman with us, mashallah, Fahad. He has thrashed Gleim thoroughly from A to Z. So Fahad, I'm sure you wouldn't have seen any question involving the non-current area of account receivable. So that is just for the sake of theory. So just keep that in mind, that non-current assets are reported at the present value, whereas the current assets are reported, or the current account receivable reported at gross amount due less uncollectible. Now, how do we calculate this? That's the topic for today. All right, moving on. Most of you, I'm sure, who are not following US GAAP, when you write off a bad debt, let's say, Imran, when you write, let's say, a customer from whom you have to receive $3,000 and it appears that he won't pay. Khuruj Nihai, he has run away from the country, or maybe he has gone bankrupt. This amount is uncollectible. Imran, what you normally do, you will debit the bad debt and credit the customer, let's say Mr. X, and you write 3,000 debit, 3,000 credit. That's what we normally do, right? This is not allowed under the US GAAP. This is called the direct write-off. You cannot charge the bad debt in the current year. Maybe the sale of this to this customer was maybe recorded in 2020 maybe, or 2019. So this would be inappropriate. Yes, absolutely, because we create a provision and we charge the bad debts against the provision. So this is called the direct write-off. This is not allowed under the US GAAP. Why? Because the sale and the bad debts, they are in different accounting periods. They are in different accounting periods. Normally, Subhan, when I say small organizations, musassas in Saudi Arabia, so those people, those gentlemen, they do not know the details of IFRS and US GAAP. So they will simply write whatever not collected, debit, bad debt, credit the customer. But remember, a matching concept explicitly says in the US GAAP that you cannot write off the bad debt this way, because this violates matching principle. Direct write-off is not acceptable. If anyone is doing it, just an assumption, if you're doing it, this is not acceptable under the US GAAP. So, and what is acceptable, we'll discuss later, but after doing a question. Now we have this question. The following information has been compiled by a manufacturing company. Sale of company products for the period to customer with net 30 days is $150,000. Just a minute, Hamad, you have a question. All right, so what we have here, that we have a sale to a customer who will pay us after 30 days, and the amount is $150,000. All right. Now, gentlemen, this is an important point. Sale of a company products for the period to a customer supported by a note of $25,000 with special terms of net 180. We have given him 180 credit days period, and this sale is supported by a note, which means he has given us this note, which means, gentlemen, he is not our account receivable. When you sell to a customer and customer, instead of paying cash, gives you a promissory note promising that I will pay you after 180 days, and this is notarized, legalized, then you remove that account receivable and debit this note in your books of accounts as our current asset, which means that this will not be considered as your account receivable. 25,000 has been supported by this note. Okay. Balance of trade receivables at the end of the last period was $300,000. That was the opening balance of your account receivable. Collection from open trade receivable during the period was 200,000. Okay, gentlemen, this is your opening balance. This is what you sold to your customers during the period. That's the sale during the period. And you collected $200,000 from your customers, which will be deduction from the opening balance. And then what? Rental income for the period, both earned and accrued but not yet collected from the manufacturing company's credit union for the use of company's facilities was 2,000. So we had this rental income, which is due, not yet received. It is not a part of your account receivable. It is your interest income receivable. It cannot be included in your account receivable. So this was just an item given just to confuse you guys. So what you have basically is 450 less 200. So it's going to be absolutely, Salman, you're right. It is $250,000. So this is the amount of your receivables at the end of the period. 250. All right. Then now let's move on to what we were supposed to do. That was a little bit of, yes, Ahmad, that's other receivables. Absolutely. It will be in the part of current assets, but other accrued amount that we have earned, not yet received, or simply rent receivable, the rent that you have earned, but not yet received. All right, gentlemen, then how do we create provision? That is the question. There are two methods in your syllabus. Let us discuss them. One is the percentage of sales method, also sometimes called the income statement approach. The other one is called the percentage of receivables method, also called the balance sheet approach. These are two distinct, very different approaches, gentlemen. Please focus and see what I'm going to do. How do I calculate? Because they look similar, but they are very different from each other in computation. Right? So what we're going to do, estimating how many customers for what amount are unlikely to pay. Let us first discuss the income statement approach. As the name suggests, the percentage of sales. We estimate our uncollectible based upon a certain percentage of our credit sales. Please do not take your total sales, because total sales includes cash sales that has already been collected. So we are talking about the percentage of sale, that is the credit sale only, not the total sales, right? So income statement approach calculates the estimated bad debt expense as a percentage of your credit sales that are reported on the income statement. So let us try to apply this in an actual question here, or an example. Look at this. A company's year-end unadjusted trial balance reports the following amounts. We have gross accounts receivables. We have allowance for uncollectible accounts. Already balance is there. And we have sales on credit $250,000. Okay. What it says, according to the past experience, 1% of your credit sales have been uncollectible. That's what you're going to use. The company uses the income statement approach to calculate bad debt expense. Bad debt expense recognized for the year is $2,500. How it is calculated? It is simply 1% of your credit sale. As per the past experience, 1% of your credit sales is your estimated bad debt or estimated allowance for bad debt. So the entry that you make is debit bad debt expense, credit allowance for uncollectible. Now I need your 150% attention on this point, because most of you make mistake on this part of the allowance. Now listen, this bad debt expense, Haza, it's estimated. It is the estimated, not actual bad debt. This is the estimated bad debt expense debit and allowance credit. This allowance, 2,500 allowance, which you are crediting, it will add to the existing balance of allowance. So the new balance in your allowance will be 2,500 credit plus 1,000 credit will be 3,500 credit, right? This 2,500 will go to the income statement as a bad debt expense. Please, it is bad debt expense, not the actual bad debt written off. Please keep that in mind. Now, this is what you charge to income statement as the expense for the period, an estimated expense, not the actual bad debt. And this amount, 3,500, where do we report it? I hope you remember the beautiful word I call the contra. This 3,500 is reported on the balance sheet when you report current assets. There you have inventory, account receivables, bank, blah, blah. At that point, you have your account receivables gross. And from this gross account receivable, you deduct this 3,500 and you report contra to AR. Absolutely, absolutely. You will report it as 96,500. That is exactly what we were doing at this very start of this class here, that your gross receivables are $100,000. Allowance had a previous balance of 1,000. We created a provision or allowance for 2,500 additional. Now we have 3,500. The net realizable value of your account receivable is 96,500. And that's what you report as an NRV on your current assets. And here it is, right? So you write this as 96,500. This is the NRV of your account receivable. Now this was your income statement approach. Let us do the balance sheet approach, and you need to know these very well. Balance sheet approach takes a totally different view. Balance sheet approach doesn't take credit sales as the basis. Balance sheet takes on the gross account receivable balance on the balance sheet, right? In the previous example, This is the amount you're talking about. Gross receivables mean the amount without any deduction of allowance or anything. So this $100,000 will be our base now when we are using the balance sheet approach. Let's do what do we do in the balance sheet approach? It says using the data from the previous example where the gross receivables were $100,000, right? And assume that the company uses the balance sheet approach and that based on the company's experience, 6% of account receivables are determined to be uncollectible. Again, I need your 150% attention, gentlemen, ladies, please. You are going to charge 6% of $100,000 as your estimated bad debt expense. But when it's the balance sheet approach, you will always look at what was there previously available in the balance sheet approach only. You don't do that in the income statement approach. In the balance sheet approach, you will calculate the provision, 6,000. That's what we need. If we already have a credit balance of 1,000, that means we need to create the entry for the net amount required to bring the balance up to 6,000. Absolutely. So we are going to take 5,000 as the amount for which we are going to make the entry. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to debit the bad debt expense. 6,000 is what we need. But since we already have 1,000 balance, so we will create the entry for bad debt debit, allowance credit. And it will do the same thing. This 5,000 goes straight to your income statement as a charge for the period. And this 5,000 will be added to the existing balance of your allowance, giving you a total of 6,000. And how do we report it? At NRV. And what is NRV? The gross receivables less the balance on allowance and gives you 94 as the NRV of your account receivable. Now, we have another way of doing the balance sheet approach, because it is very rare that you will have a single percentage for all your customers. What we do, rather, we use the aging schedule. I'm sure all of you accountants who know, we analyze our account receivable. Those who are very old, they are more likely to go bad. Those who are fresh entries, they are less likely to go bad. So this way, we classify our account receivables into worst and into relatively less worse, right? And then we charge percentages accordingly. Like this 100,000 was analyzed by our accountant, and he said that 70,000 is less than 30, 18, 10, and 2. And then we analyze that, let's charge 20% this as per the past experience, and 2% this, and in between percentages on 18 and 20. Now, this gave us an estimate bad debt allowance of 4,000. Since we already have 1,000 available, it is the continuation of our previous example. We already have 1,000 available in the allowance, so we will charge the entry for 3,000. We'll debit the bad debt expense, which again goes to the income statement, and the credit 3,000. That's allowance for uncollectible accounts. All right, we have a question here, Hamad. Just a minute. Okay, so your question will come into the, okay, now this is what you will report as your NRV of receivables, because 100,000 less 3 less previous one, you have 96. So let us now try to apply both methods simultaneously on a single set of data. A company had the following account balances at December 31st. Account receivables, $900,000. All right. Allowance for uncollectible accounts before any provision for the year, uncollectible account expense is 16. This is the already available balance of allowance. There is only one question in human history, and that is only available in Hawk. Maafin Wiley, Maafin Gleim, only one question in Hawk where you have a debit balance in provision or an allowance. What we will do, I will explain that later. Let us do this beautiful question. You can have a debit balance in allowance. You can have a debit balance, and how do we do it later? This is the gross receivable. This is the allowance, and of course we reported our NRV. This is the credit sales for the period. Now listen to me very carefully. The company is considering the following method of estimating uncollectible accounts for the year. Based on credit sales, it's 2%. Clearly, that is the income statement approach. So you're going to charge 2% of this amount. And based upon the account receivable, the balance sheet approach, 5% of the gross receivable. Now, see two methods side by side that will help you understand the concept. Now, what amount should the company charge to uncollectible accounts under each method? Let's first do the credit sale. Credit sales simply will take 2% of 50,000. 1750,000. Waleed, nah, don't jump, my brother. Don't, please. Let me show you how. This is how your examiner plays with you. Don't let him play with you. You should play with him. Now, if you take 2% of this amount, it is 35,000. So this straight amount is what you charge to your income statement as an expense for the period. So either C or D. Now let us go for the balance sheet approach, the percentage of account receivable. 5% of $900,000, it's going to be 45,000, right? This is what amount we calculate using the balance sheet approach. Since under the balance sheet approach, we already have 16,000 balance available. So we are going to take just the extra we need. That is 29,000. So which means under the credit sales approach or income statement approach, we are going to charge this entry 35,000 debit, bad debt expense, allowance for uncollectible account credit with 35. Under the balance sheet, you calculate 45,000 as 5% of 900, but you will consider what was the existing balance, 16,000, and then you will make the entry for the difference, 45 less 16, 29,000. So that makes D to be the correct option. But let us play with this question. Let's play with the question. Don't let the questions play with you. Now, let's say the balance Haza is credit. Instead of being credit balance, it's a debit balance. Only one question, and that is in Hawk software. No one else has tested this aspect of allowance. Now, let's say if your allowance is a debit balance. Now, that won't affect your credit sales area. Now, if you need 5% of your account receivables, which is $45,000, but you already have $16,000 available, you will have to add this amount into 45,000. And now you're going to create a provision for the total 45,000 plus 16, and it's going to be 61. So you are going to make an entry for $61,000. You debit the bad debt expense for $61,000 and you credit your allowance. Why? Because the 61 will neutralize the 16 and the net amount will be exactly what we need. So that's very unlikely you might be tested on this. So that is what you need to see. Do we have some? Okay, now when you write off an account, instead of the previous entry, the direct write-off, debit, bad debt, credit, customer, no. Any write-off is charged against the allowance. Ibrar has a question. What figure in the balance sheet for AR? Balance sheet still remain 900,000. 900,000, and when you will net off this 45 with what you charge here, I think 16. We need a 45, right? So you created an allowance for 61. Ibrar, please attention. 61 is the entry. 16 was already debit. So you will create an entry of 45,000. Still, you will deduct 45,000. So the amount, net amount of the allowance stays the same. All right. Yes, that's Waleed coming. If you recover the bad debt, entries are coming. I will explain if you write off a bad debt and it recovered subsequently, what we do. So this is the entry you pass when you have to write off a bad debt. You debit allowance and credit the account receivable. Now this is interesting. This entry is not going to affect your income statement. Zero impact. And this entry is going to have zero impact on your net current assets. It will have no impact upon your income statement, no impact on the balance sheet amounts or net amount on the current assets. Right? How? Let me explain. Allowance for uncollectible account, it's not an income statement item. Account receivable, it's not an income statement item, which means income statement is not affected with this entry. All right. Then how come this entry is not affecting the balance sheet numbers, net current assets? I will explain in the next question with the numbers. Just hold on to it. So how does it not affect the balance sheet? That I'm going to explain. Now, the question you asked me a minute ago, what if we recover a bad debt that was previously written off? You can't consider it as your income, right? You can't consider it as income. A customer pays an account which was previously written off. You debit the cash. Of course, you receive cash, but credit is not given to other income or bad debt recovered account. It is what you can say, you just simply transfer this to allowance for uncollectible accounts. So it will again have no impact upon the income statement, no impact upon the balance sheet. These two entries will have no impact on your income statement, no impact upon your balance sheet net current assets. How come? How come? How come? That's what I'm going to explain. How come? So bad debt expense is not affected when an account receivable is written off, or when an account previously written off becomes collectible, when you receive the amount which was previously written off. So remember, when a bad debt is written off, you debit the allowance, credit the account receivable. When a previously written off bad debt is recovered, you debit cash, credit allowance, which means the entry related to the allowance is either debited to or credited in case of bad debt written off or bad debt recovered. Now the question is, how come they do not affect the net current assets or total current assets or net income? Let me explain this. Now, a company uses the allowance method to account for uncollectible, what we have so far learned. After recording the estimate of uncollectible account expense for the current year, the company decided to write off $10,000 from a customer who has filed for bankruptcy. He won't pay. What effect does this write-off have on the company's current net income? No effect. And what effect does it have on the total current assets? No effect. This is the answer. But how come? Let me tell you how come. Let's take some numbers to explain the idea. Now, let's say if you look on the current asset sides, you have, forget about inventory, cash, bank. I'm just going to take the gross account receivables. I'm going to take some imaginary numbers. Let's say I have 180,000 of gross account receivables, and my allowance for uncollectible accounts, it has a balance of 25,000. Just for the sake of simplicity, assume numbers, take any numbers you want, but make sure you use to incorporate this 10,000 there. So my net NRV of my receivable is 155, right? That's the current assets before the write-off. When I write off a bad debt, this is the entry I make. Allowance debit, account receivable credit with 10,000. That's the amount given, right? Now, allowance and account receivable, they have nothing to do with the income statement. That is the reason income statement is not affected. So there is no doubt about that. Let us see, when we write off a bad debt from our account receivable, how does it affect our total current assets? No. How come? When you write off a bad debt, the entry we make is debit the bad debt allowance. Look at this. This is the debit to allowance and credit to account receivable, which means when the allowance is debited, which is already credit, the balance will reduce from 25 to 15. And when an account receivable is credited, the account receivable will reduce by 10. It's going to be 170. Now, if you deduct 170 less 15, you will still have 155,000. Right? So you can see that there is no net impact on the current assets, no impact on the net income. Same will happen if a bad debt is recovered. Same will happen if the bad debt is recovered. No impact on net income and no impact on your current assets. Now, let me just change these numbers to give you the idea how it will work. All right. Let's say, yes, let's say we have the same numbers, but this time we are going to recover a bad debt. We have a cash balance of, let's say, any number, 50,000, right? So let's say these are just the current assets available. So the total current assets are 180 less 25 plus 50 gives you a total of 205. Let's say we wrote off a customer who happens to pay us back. Nice of him. We will debit cash. Let's say he paid us back 7,500. And we will credit the allowance for uncollectible accounts. Since cash is not an income statement item, neither is allowance for uncollectible account, which means income statement is not affected. Let us see how our current assets are affected. It doesn't involve any account receivable, so account receivable would stay the same. Now look at this. Your cash is debiting, which means I will add 7,500 here in cash. The new cash balance will be 57,500. Okay. Now allowance is being credited by 7,500, which means the new balance in allowance is going to be 25 plus 7,500, 32,500. Now, if you calculate, the net impact will again be nil. Net impact is nil. See, the same number you get. So that is the point, gentlemen. When you write off a bad debt, your income statement is not affected, neither your total current assets. And when a bad debt, which was previously written off, is recovered, it doesn't affect your net income and current assets. And that's exactly what it says here. Bad debt expense not affected when an account is written off or when an account previously written off is collectible. That is the idea, and that gives you the answer. All right, next. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, next. Based on the industry average, a corporation estimates that its bad debt should average 3% of the credit sales. All right. The balance in the allowance for uncollectible accounts at the beginning of the year was 140. Already you have this balance available in allowance, 3% of credit sales. That is the income statement approach. Then it further says during the year 3, credit sales total $10 million. Accounts of $100,000 were deemed to be uncollectible, which we need to write off as bad debt. All right. And payment was received on 20,000 account that had previously been written off as uncollectible. This is what you have written off as bad debt, and this is what you have collected against those customers who were written off from our books. So two things in a single question. Now, what the question is, the entry to record bad debt expense, mind the word, bad debt expense, the charge for the period, would include a credit to the allowance for uncollectible account of what? Now, first of all, you have been given the credit sales, which is 10 million. You simply charge 3% of this will give you $300,000. So we have already learned that if you are using income statement approach, we won't see what is in the balance of allowance, what is not. We will simply take the amount of our credit sales and multiply it with percentage and do nothing. So we don't need to do anything. We will simply create this amount and debit our bad debt expense and credit the allowance for uncollectible accounts. So we don't need to do anything at all. It's a straightforward. It would have been a little twisted question if the question required a balance sheet approach. This is something you might play with once you're doing it. Now, sometimes in the questions, you are sometimes required to calculate how much bad debt were written off, how much was the opening balance or this or that. This is what you can call vertical format of finding the bad debt written off or any unknown. So what you have is the opening balance of allowance. Standard says that you do the same thing as given in these entries because you have to follow the matching principle. Current year sale must be charged against current year bad debts. I will explain the idea in the sales return, Subhan. Matching concept is one of the fundamental concepts in accounting, that current year incomes must be matched against current year expenses. Any accrual or prepayments must be separated from the current year income statement. Now, if you had the opening balance of allowance, we created certain provision during the period. Then some customers were written off during the period, or some customers which we wrote off, they paid us back. They will give you all these closing balance. I don't like this approach because if you follow the T count format, this will be much more convenient for you. This is the balance of allowance for uncollectible accounts. 100% cases, you will have a opening balance that is given on the credit side. You will have, let's say, just imaginary number 50,000. That's the opening balance of your allowance, which is given in the previous example as well. It's on the credit side mostly. Now, any allowance you create during the period, the entry we make is bad debt expense debit, allowance for uncollectible accounts credit. Let's say this year we created a provision or allowance for 70,000 through bad debt expense. Remember, this is bad debt expense. This is the estimate, not the actual. All right. When actually a customer refuses to pay, we debit allowance and credit that customer. So the actual bad debt expense, please note this format down, actual bad debt expense. This is the actual bad debt. Remember, there's a difference. This is the bad debt estimate based upon our income statement approach or balance sheet approach. This is the actual bad debt written off. Let's say they were 30,000. When a customer that was written off, he pays us back, we debit cash, credit allowance. It will appear here, bad debt recovered. Let's say it was 3,000. These are the maximum thing you will have here, and this will give us then the closing balance or the carried on balance, which you will report here. In this case, is going to be 50 plus 70 plus 3 less 30 gives you 93. So this 93,000 is the closing balance of your allowance. So this is the complete decomposition of your allowance for uncollectible account, opening balance plus the estimated bad debt for the period based on income statement approach or balance sheet approach, plus any bad debt recovered, less bad debt written off. This is exactly the same. It is given in a vertical format, but it's in T form. That's how it works. And then at the same time, please note down this format. Our account receivable control account, sometimes called the sales ledger control account. This is the summary of your customer's account over the period. You will have a debit balance. You will have cash collected from customers. Cash collected from customers. If any customer who is written off as bad debt, it appears here, the same amount, 30,000, actual bad debt, same amount will appear here. Please remember the entry we made when we write off a bad debt, we debit the allowance, 30,000, and we credit the customer with 30,000. That's the same 30,000 which is appearing on the debit and credit. This is how these two accounts are linked. Allowance and customer account are linked through this entry. Actual bad debt appears on the allowance side on the debit side, and the actual bad debt appears on the credit side of your sales ledger control account, total customers account, debtor ledger control account, or whatever you want to call it. This is the summary of all your customers detail in a single. All the customers opening balance, all the cash collected from customers, all the bad debts related to your customers, right? All the return inwards by your customers, return inwards. I'm going to write just return in, right? All the discount allowed to our customers will appear here, discount allowed, right? And sometimes a customer is also a supplier, so we normally set off such accounts. So it's sometimes called set off or contra. This is the maximum we will have, and closing balance will be shown here. Now, what will come on the debit side? Credit sales. When you sell to your customer, the account receivable balance goes up. That's why it shows up on the debit side. Sometimes your customer's check get dishonored, so you will debit bank again here with the. I'm giving you the full format. Anything that you might see on the exam will fit somewhere here. Check dishonored. Then you will have sometimes where the customers delay making payments, we penalize them, we punish them by charging interest on overdue account. That interest also comes here. Interest on overdue accounts. Please note down this format. It will help you somewhere in the future. And then sometimes when a customer might have paid us more, sometimes he might have paid us more, we refund some amount to him. So refunds come on this side. So let me highlight what I have written here. Credit sales, checks dishonored, interest on overdue account, it's a single item. Refunds, then we have bad debts written off, cash collected from customer, return inwards, discount allowed, set off for contra, and the closing balance. We have a question. We have to check effect on current assets. Well, if the question asks so, we mostly will be required to find out some unknown numbers like in this question. Now look at this. Please note down this format. I'm sure you would have copied it or you would have written it down on your notebook. I'm going to use this format to solve this question. Now, what I have been given, a statement of financial position on December 31st is given, opening and closing both. Last year and current year, 2 years balance sheet. So also we will be required to find some unknown numbers like in this question. Very rare you might be asked to see the effect on current asset. That is the area we normally do in a working capital management, corporate finance section B, CMA part 2. So we have the opening balance sheet and the closing balance sheet. Whenever you are given a bigger question, it is always recommended to look at the requirement. We need to find out the cash collected from customers. Cash collected from customers, so it has nothing to do with allowance. So we should immediately come up with the idea that we need to draw our sales ledger control account. This account will help us find the unknown. That's what we need to do. We need to put in the opening balance, put in the closing balance, any credit sale you put here. You won't find refunds, etc. here. It's a pretty straightforward question. Any amount you collect will come here, or any bad debt written off will come here. I'm only taking those what are there in this question. So save time. I want to find how much cash has been collected from the customers. Now, the opening balance of my account receivable is 95,000. Taken. Closing balance is 89,000. Right? Taken. Sales revenue was 338. That's what we sell goods to our customers. And then it says bad debt written off was 3,000. Sorry, it should have been the lower line. 3,000 bad debt written off. Both sides are tallied because we already have the closing balance. If you work it back, you will find the balancing figure 95 plus 338 less 89 less 3. So it'll give you 341. This is a very useful format. Some of you who are not very much into accounting, they find this format little daunting, but it's very helpful. It contains almost everything you need to do. If you want to use this format, fine. Most of the things you can find using this format as well. Make an equation, this plus this less this plus this is equal to closing balance. So make it in a horizontal line and mark what is missing and solve this linear equation to find the unknown. So you can do that as well. So we got it using this format. Refunds, check dishonored, interest on overdue accounts, and rest of things were not there. We just only taken what are there to find the unknown, and that gives you 341 as your answer. Okay, now this one. An analysis of an entity, again, look what is required. What was the amount of account receivable written off as uncollectible during the year? Now what you're going to do, read the information. Perhaps we may have to draw both accounts to find the unknown. We have two accounts, account receivables and allowance for uncollectible accounts. An analysis of an entity 150,000 account receivable at the year end resulted in 5,000 ending balance of its allowance for uncollectible accounts and a bad debt expense of 2,000. This is the closing balance of your allowance, and this is the bad debt expense. Mind it, it is the bad debt expense, not the bad debt written off. During the past year, recoveries and bad debts previously written off were correctly recorded as 500. If the beginning balance in the allowance for uncollectible account is 4,700, what was the amount of account receivable written off? Clearly, he's talking about allowance. We need to have the opening balance, closing balance. Remember the bad debt expense, which is the estimate bad debt. Then the bad debt recovered, the format I've just given you, just plug in the numbers, and the bad debt actual. Absolutely. Bad debt actual. You need to differentiate between these. All right, so let's plug in the numbers. It says the ending balance is 5,000. Remember, 5,000 ending balance for allowance. So you should plug it here. It further says bad debt expense 2,000. That is the charge for the period. During the past year, recoveries on the bad debts previously written off was 500. That's the bad debt recovered. And it says the opening balance was 4,700. What you have now, all the numbers are given. This, less this, and here you go. You should get your answer. So 4,700 is the opening balance. 2,000 is the estimated bad debt. 500 recovered. And if you still have 5,000 remaining, that means you would have written 2,200 as bad debt. So that should make C to be the correct option. Yes, and C it is, right? So you can use this format, which is given in the book. It's in the same order, beginning balance, bad debt, return of recovery, and all that. Or you can use this Maha method, which will help you to find things in a different way, but still you will get your correct answer. Now, allowance for customers' right of sales return. Sales return, that's what you need to do. T format is always advisable. Professional accountants prefer that method. Okay, now what do we do with sales? Something similar. We do something similar with sales return also. We don't wait for the customers to come and give the goods back to us. We, just like allowance for uncollectible account is made on estimates, we do the same thing with returns. Instead of waiting for the returns, we make an estimate. So what we do, we create a provision for returns, how many sales will come back, because we want to follow the matching principle. Means your revenues and related expense must be accounted for in the same period, right? So how do we do it? Let's do the example. A company has 500,000 of sales in July. Its first month of operation, it just started its business. Management estimates the total return will be 1% of sales. 1% of sales means 5,000. So you're going to make two entries simultaneously. First, you will create a sales account by debiting the cash account. You receive 500,000 and credit the sales account. But at the same time, none of the customers has come as yet. No one has come back. It's just that we are going to create an estimate returns recognition of allowance for return. So we are going to debit the sales return. Remember, this is the estimate, not the actual. It's 1% of 500,000. So you debit sales return, estimate, debit 5,000, and allowance for sale returns 5,000. When there is our actual sales return, the entry we make is debit allowance for sales returns. Let's say actual goods that came back had a selling price of 2,000. So we'll debit allowance for sales return and credit the customer who brought the goods. It will have no impact upon your income statement whatsoever because the expense has already been charged through allowance, similar to what we done with the bad debts, with the uncollectible accounts. It works in the same dynamics. Rather than waiting for the actual returns, we make an estimate of returns. Does service sector take this into account? Yes. We will do a topic here, Subhan, in your financial reporting, warranties related to the goods and services. So we take certain estimate of what we might get back and what we may have to refund to the customers. Now, let's take this example here. Account receivables, $650,000. That's the opening balance. What are we required? It says what amount should be reported from account receivable before allowance for sales return and uncollectible accounts. You need the gross. You need the gross account receivable. All right. You will take your opening balance. Remember, if you know the format, let me show you what did we do. Sales ledger control account. It has your opening balance, 650. Then the credit sales, I'm writing the figures in thousands. 650, 2,700 is the sale. This is the brought down balance. This is the amount for credit sales, 2,700. Shabash, Ahmad, very good. Credit sales, 2,700. Sales return for the year, 7,500. These are the actual sales return. Then accounts written off during the period. Yes, account written off, they also come here, 40,000. Right? Collection from customers during the year. Customers paid us 2,150. Right? And then estimated future sales return. Estimated future sales return, it is the allowance for sales return. Estimated uncollected, it is allowance for uncollectible account. They do not appear in the customer account. What you have in the customer account is the actual sales return, is the actual bad debt, and the cash collected. This will give you the closing balance. And I think that is the right answer. A is the right answer. Hamad, you did it correctly. It's A. It was O. It's not A. Just a minute. Hamad, Shabash is back. Let me do this. How did you do 1.2 million? Let me calculate this for you. 650, 2,700, less 75, less 40, less 2,150. It gives you 1085. Hamad, please see the format. Opening balance of your customer, plus credit sales, less actual returns, less bad debts, less the cash collected. The format I've given you. So yes, this 40, maybe you missed this one. So this is the complete format now. I hope you got the understanding. So that will give you C to be the correct option. Now, the last area. Sometimes we have a lot of customers on our books, let's say $100 million worth of account receivables, and we have nothing in our bank account. This is a very terrible situation when your customer's balance is $100 million and there is nothing in your bank account. Terrible. Then what you do? There are two ways. Either I can pledge my account receivable with some company and take some, just like we have some valuable items like jewelry or property documents or vehicle maybe. We might do the same thing. We might pledge our account receivables and take some money as advance. And when we collect the money, we pay back with the interest. There is another way. We might sell our customers to someone else who can collect from the customer himself. This is called factoring. This is a topic that is discussed in CMA Part 2, Corporate Finance. One of the areas to way to find the, yes, exactly, Subhan, that's the idea. So we can do that. We can either pledge our receivables this way, or we can simply, if you pledge, you will still be the owner of your account receivable and they will still show up on your balance sheet, but you might factor them, which means you might sell them. But financing cost is high because let's say if you have sold $100,000 or $100 million worth of your account receivables, perhaps you might get 95 million only. So the 5 million that you did not get is what you call the financing cost. Cost could be significant. So it's a decision that we learn how to make. Absolutely, Zaid, you're absolutely right. The muscle man, exactly. So you will learn how to calculate the factoring cost, and comparatively, should we go for factoring or should we improve our credit collection? This is something that is discussed in much more detail. What you need to learn is that we sell our customers to account receivables or to a factoring company, and then factoring company will take the responsibility to collect. Now, there are some ways through which we can do that, right? We can sell our customers or we can factor our customers in a number of ways. I will explain. Factoring is we transfer our customers or receivables to a third party called the factor, and then that factoring company takes the responsibility of collection, the muscle man. Now, there are two ways through which we can do that. Let me explain. First is called without recourse, and the other is called with recourse. Just try to understand this, with recourse. Now, with recourse and without recourse. Now, if I sell my customers, let's say I've sold 100 million of my account receivables to a factoring company without recourse, what does it mean? That I'm selling my 100 million account receivable, whether they pay you or not, I am not responsible. You are taking the risk, take it away. I'm not responsible. You can't come back to me. You have no recourse. You can't come back. Take these 100 million, analyze them well, pay me money and get out. In this case, risk has been transferred. In this case, you must remove account receivables from your books. They are no longer your account receivable. In fact, you have sold them, unfortunately. Apne customer bhej diya aapne. A bad thing to do, but this is what companies do. So you have sold your account receivables, so remove them from your balance sheet and from your accounts, right? Because those who have purchased your customers, they have no recourse. So whether they collect or not, it's risk is with them. Since risk has been transferred, so it's sold out. But when the customers have been sold with the with recourse condition, means if any of the customer doesn't pay, the factoring company will come back to me and I will have to compensate the factoring company for the loss sustained. Right? So in this case, since the risk has not been transferred, right? So in this case, it may not be considered as a sale. So in this case, your account receivables will still show up on your accounts, on your balance sheet as your customers. So without recourse, halas, account receivables to be removed. But with recourse means still you have the risk. So you must be reported on your balance sheet. All right, I'm coming to you, Fahad, just a minute. So this is what is mentioned here. Now, there is a calculation given to calculate the AR factoring. This is totally unnecessary. There's not a single question in your part 1 involving the factoring. This is a domain. In fact, this is the question taken from part 2 book. So if you see this question in Glance book, you can skip that. You can skip this question because this is totally unnecessary to do it at this level. Factoring is discussed at a much detailed level in section B, CMA part 2, corporate finance. So you can just skip that way, and that ends your topic account receivable.